Hey guys, Daniel here, and this is a live stream about the Weather Channel, severe weather, and nor'easter.
It's a dangerous night in northern Alabama. We've had tornado reports, we've had baseball-sized hail, and even very recently in the southern of 3 tornado-warned storms around Cullman, Alabama, windshields broken and a possible tornado there. Possible tornado recently in the next storm up, and then right along the Tennessee-Alabama border. These storms are now getting very close to this warm front, and we may get these storms run right down the warm front with additional rotation source toward or into or near the Atlanta metro area over the course of the next few hours, so be on the lookout there. Right now, we have Cullman and Marshall counties south and east of Joppa heading toward the Albertville area. Big swirling mass of could be some golf ball to tennis ball size hail and possibly a tornado. Inside that little notch there, around, say, heading toward Hyatt, Boaz, the Rodentown area, with the time showing up in the white there. They're moving at about 45 miles per hour. Some places in here that show rotation, more than one location in some cases with this big thunderstorm complex. A more traditional supercell with a big, look at that lavender hail core suddenly pop up and then fall out of the sky as the hail falls to the ground around the Cullman, where we've had baseball hail and windshields broken. Cullman County still with a tornado warning. Tornado would be on the leading edge of that hail core there around the Welty area heading toward Mountain Grove, and then the Royal, the Susan Moore area as it heads toward the south and east. Here is the circulation with that, probably strongest down in that area between Welty and the Hansfield area of Alabama. Then leapfrogging to the north, right up along the Tennessee-Alabama line, east now of the Hazel Green area, Lincoln and Marshall County still with a tornado warning, but the circulation seems to be weakening a little bit, but between Elora, Tennessee, and the Plevna area of Alabama, and east of those locations, still a possibility of a tornado, but the circulation seems to be weakening a little bit as the storm may be gusting out as it's beginning to move at least into cooler air on the east side of the warm front. But down to the south, those storms have a lot of fuel yet to go. Mike, Alex?
All right, Dr. Forbes, thank you for that. These storms we know producing very large hail tonight as well.
And joining us on the phone is storm tracker Scott Peak in Good Hope, Alabama. And Scott, you were the victim of some of that very large hail. We're having trouble connecting to Scott. I think you're hearing some of the sirens there, too. Oh, there he is. All right. Hey, Scott, we're seeing the windshield, the aftermath there, and looks like you found yourself right in the thick of it.
Yes, I was heading down south to another supercell that was forming just west of New Hope. It had a couplet on it, and as I was going south on the highway, I got cored by baseball hailstones, and they came right through the window, in the back window, shattered the glass you can see in the stream, and it also destroyed the front windshield.
Scott, obviously it's been a tough day for you to chase when you see damage like this to your vehicle, but maybe this is a good reminder that you don't necessarily have to have a tornado in order to get damage. Winds and big hail are going to do a lot of damage tonight to a lot of people's property.
Absolutely, yes. There are some other storm chasers, as a matter of fact, and other vehicles that weren't even chasers with me that got their windshields and vehicles destroyed as well. So I wasn't the only one.
Yeah, and is that a siren that we're hearing there in the background that just stopped?
Yes, yeah, the siren's going on and off. I think they're doing the all clear. But yes, that is the sirens going off in the background.
Scott, how tough have these storms been to chase today? We know, a lot of places where we've had, couplets on the radar, possible tornadoes. We may have had rain-wrapped tornadoes. Difficult to spot anything today?
Yes, absolutely. The storms today were what we call high precipitation supercells, or HP for short. And that's where the mesocyclone and the possible tornadoes are completely wrapped in the rain. It almost blends in with the rain core, so you can't even see the tornado until you're right on it.
And we're looking at the hail tracker for the storm that you were rolling through. And you mentioned tennis ball-sized hail, correct? Or our computer picking up an estimation of about 3.5 inches?
Yes, that's correct. And I think there were actually some sporadic, maybe even baseball size in there. I'll have to go back and look at the video. I was kind of shielding my face because the hail was just coming down so hard and the windows were breaking, and I had glass flying around from the front windshield. I had to shield my face, so I couldn't quite tell, but I did get it on video.
Well, Scott, we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us tonight. I know you got a lot of damage to your vehicle. You got to have some repairs done, but glad you're okay. Glad you and your team there are okay. But boy, the images are pretty stunning tonight.
Yeah, as you mentioned, let this be a reminder that it doesn't have to be a tornado that could cause damage to your car, to your home, or to yourself if you're out there in these storms.
A lot of threats tonight: wind, hail, and tornadoes. We're going to cover more of it when we come back and take a look at the radar with Dr. Forbes.
There's a particularly dangerous situation. Not only will we likely experience very large hails, the governor mentioned up to the size of baseball, and 70-mile-an-hour straight-line winds.
1022 to the same accident.
potential for strong to violent long-track tornadoes is also a real possibility.
Well, it's a night of dangerous severe storms. The threat of damaging winds, baseball-sized hail, and tornadoes are lingering well after you head to bed. Thanks for staying with us. I'm Alex Wilson.
And I'm Mike Bettis. We're going to be with you tonight until 10 o'clock Eastern Time. And special extended coverage on the Weather Channel goes till 1 o'clock in the morning to keep you ahead of the threat.
I want to check in with severe weather expert Dr. Greg Forbes. Dr. Forbes, you've been watching this event for days, issuing those high Torcon values, and we are seeing this play out with the warm storms, the tornadoes, and even the big hail.
Yeah, indeed, and the Storm Prediction Center says in their watch we could get 3-inch hail, and we've had at least that, possibly even a little bit larger than that, inside of this particularly dangerous situation. Tornado watch for northern Alabama. Still a bit of a tornado watch also for central parts of Tennessee. They go until 11 p.m. I should also kind of point out, at one point here, we had a tornado warning right up on the Tennessee line, and then we've had this cluster running along the warm front now farther south. That cluster, those storms are about 50 miles apart, so when we give a Torcon of 7 for within a 50-mile radius, this is sort of giving an indication why we didn't go 10. There's some gaps in between there across a 50-mile stretch. Right now, 2 storms that have had large hail and possibly tornadoes at times. The northern one has been coming a long time and had a tornado back at Russellville and the Falkville area. Right now, it's getting close to Albertville, Marshall County. You can see the large hail, tennis ball size hail perhaps there, and then spinning around in this what is becoming a well-defined high precipitation supercell that's going to be heading toward the center area of Alabama. There's the rotation heading toward Boaz, and then toward Flanders as it heads down toward the southeast at about 45 miles per hour. Pretty strong inflow showing up to this, and some circulation also in that Douglas-Boaz area that's just crossed Douglas. Then the next storm down to the southwest of that, that's the one that gave the baseball or larger hail back at Cullman. That is still producing large hail down south of Brooksville, and a tornado warning for Blount County. The tornado would be sitting right inside there around the Bluntsville area, heading toward Altoona in Alabama at about 7:51. And previously, as it came across the Cullman area, our radar suggests that there was some 3-inch hail with that. Maybe the size of the hail momentarily coming down just a little bit, but it still has some circulation showing up here. Not exceptionally strong, but still some circulation showing there that could be producing a tornado. We've reissued the tornado warning then for that storm up along the Tennessee-Alabama border, heading toward the Jericho, Tennessee, High Top, Alabama area, Franklin and Jackson counties with a tornado warning. That is close to a warm front that I've been showing. You can kind of see the temperatures in the 70s versus northern Georgia into the upper 50s, and a shifting winds along that. So that warm front is a source of convergence and rotation. We also have a cold pocket loft and jet stream winds with this upper air system that's coming toward Kentucky that is fueling the storms that will continue tonight, marching out of Alabama into at least the northern half of Georgia, including Atlanta, and probably at least the southern half of South Carolina, maybe more isolated storms farther south. For a while yet, until they get out of northern Alabama, we're still in that Torcon 7 area. Then we'll get into the Torcon 6 area of north portions of Georgia, and maybe some storms will get down into the central Georgia, where I've given a Torcon value of 5. Less than that then farther east and farther to the south. Our future radar shows that the main action is going to be this cluster we've been watching that'll head into the Chattanooga area, continue across North Georgia, northeast parts of Alabama, into the Atlanta area midnight or 1 a.m., and then continue over into Augusta, maybe depending on how far north the warm front gets, maybe into central South Carolina, and by tomorrow morning into northeast parts of South Carolina, could be some severe storms there. So Mike and Alex, still for many places, a long night, a dangerous night yet to come.
All right, Dr. Forbes, thank you for the update.
I want to check in now with meteorologist Mike Seidel. He's in Birmingham tonight, and Mike, you've been watching these storms rolling your way now north of town, seeing the exceptional hail there.
Yeah, so far so good here in Birmingham itself. We've been following the supercell storms from left to right, from west to east, and right now we're seeing occasional cloud-to-cloud lightning. There's been a lot of lightning strikes. Last hour we had about 400 strikes. In fact, just heard 400 strikes in the past 15 minutes from these storms north of town. You've got to get about 50 miles north of town to get into the storms, the rain, and the hail, but you can see some of the cloud-to-cloud and some of the high-level flashes from these cells. Let me take you back to about 45 minutes ago. We grabbed this video before sundown. You can see the anvil in the distance, again, associated with this cluster of storms we've been following since late this afternoon. It's had a long life. It's had numerous tornado warnings, and we've had reports of tornadoes and baseball-sized hail. Here's proof. We just talked to a storm tracker 45 minutes up the roadway in Coleman. This is in Fairhope, Alabama, not far from Coleman. And look at the damage to his windshield. He reports baseball-sized hail. We had other reports of tennis ball-sized hail. This was expected. Storm Prediction Center expected this. This time of the year, the atmosphere is still very cold aloft. Here it is, the last official day of winter. So it's easier, at least in this part of the world, to get the large hailstones here in March versus, say, May and June. But so far, so good here in Birmingham. We're still under that tornado watch until 11, but we're going to watch very carefully to see if anything develops off to the southwest. One cell has, but it's now moving northwest away from the city to the north of town. Let's head now off to the north and east towards Chattanooga, Tennessee, at the foot of Lookout Mountain. Wolf Reynolds, I know it won't be long before you start seeing lightning on your western horizon too.
I fear that you are correct. We're actually just taking a look at the tornado warning in parts of southern Franklin County, just the outer fringe of that warning area, roughly 30 to 40 miles from where we happen to be. Deadline moving 30 miles an hour to the east, so it is just you can do the equation. It's not going to take very long before it gets here. Preceded by the winds picking up, then the rain, then with it, of course, possibly some damaging wind, hail, and yes, maybe even some tornadic activity. So the key takeaway from this is, folks, don't wait for this to go ahead and come right to your area. Go ahead and make a plan right now of where you should go. Think of some place where you happen to be in your home, maybe your apartment building, where you'll have an interior spot away from windows, away from outside walls, and make sure that if you do have that warning that happens, that you can grab your family members and get to that safe spot as fast as you possibly can. Where we happen to be, we are just due west, or actually due east rather, from downtown Chattanooga, and I can tell you the talk in the hotel lobby among a lot of people has been really the concern about this unfolding weather situation. A lot of people certainly feeling quite a bit of trepidation over the next several hours, because we do anticipate that these sky conditions are going to bear some showers. The rain's going to come on through, and with it, of course, wow, certainly some loud times. So a lot of folks really worried about what we can expect over the next several hours. So we're keeping a sharp eye on this. We've got the moisture that continues to come in from the Gulf of Mexico. The wind picking up a little bit more from our last update. Of course, we're going to be here the entire time, Mike, keeping a sharp eye on conditions as they unfold in the coming hours. Let's send it back to you, Mike.
Could be a real tough night in Scenic City. Thank you so much for that update tonight, Reynolds. Just be alert. That's all we can tell you, is be alert of what the conditions will be tonight when you go to bed. So here we are, Chattanooga. Threat goes through 11 o'clock tonight, so maybe past bedtime for you here, and then much quieter after that. But things could get incredibly rough for us here. Big-time winds are going to blow through at the very least, okay? For Macon, our threat comes in much later, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, with thunderstorms here that could produce some high winds, some hail, as well as some tornadoes as well. For Atlanta, our risk time likely to be about midnight tonight until 3 o'clock in the morning. We'll all be asleep, right? You won't be alerted unless you're paying attention, unless you actually have your weather radio set, unless you've got your phone set to alert you when those warnings go off for your area, because the last thing you want to be is asleep and have something happen.
Yeah, unless you've got one of those weather fanatics too in your family. There are people who stay up and say they want to monitor it because they want to know that they understand what's
Better
coming
safe
their
than
way.
sorry. It's worth losing a couple of hours of sleep and being safe than getting your sleep and something happen, you know?
Yeah, but the best bet is have that app to wake you up and know and have your family understand where you want to go should that warning be issued for you. It is going to be a late threat for the Atlanta metro area. Northwest side of town, we could be looking at 9, 10, even 11 o'clock for some of those stronger storms. This would be areas up 75 as you head, say, up towards Chattanooga. Now we get you into the Atlanta metro, and you do notice that it is closer to midnight, even beyond for the east side of town, and that could be problematic because, again, a lot of you, especially the kids, they're sleeping. So apps, weather radios, also important. Even 2 a.m., still some possible stronger storms still hanging around.
Be smart tonight. Be alert and be ready. We're going to be right back. We'll have more on the warnings that are hitting across the South tonight.
It's a dangerous night across northern Alabama, working its way toward northern Georgia. We've had reports of hail, at least baseball size. We've had tornadoes, and still several tornado warnings right along the Tennessee-Alabama line, and in a cluster south of that, 3 storms that have tornado warnings. We'll take a look here. The lead storm has had reports of tornadoes back in Russellville and the Falkville area. Now it's spinning pretty quickly across parts of DeKalb and Marshall counties, and then down into Etowah County with a tornado there. Pretty strong rotation showing up, as well as some large golf ball to tennis ball size hail. So right in about there, close to the Boaz area, heading over toward, say, Flanders and Duck Springs and the Mackey area of Alabama with possible tornado. Pretty strong inflow coming in here. Some of the rain-cooled air pushing around, and then near the Boaz area, as I was saying, will be where the tornado would be. Just down to the southwest of that, a storm that gave baseball at least hail back in the Cullman area is now spinning its way across Blount County with a possible tornado down in that notch there close to the Susan Moore area. down toward Altoona, and then if it holds together, the Gadsden, Alabama area at about 8:14. The circulation showing up a couple of spots here with some rotation down into the area between Susan Moore and the Altoona, Alabama area. We did have a tornado warning up around the High Top area. It has now been canceled. This is northern Alabama, Franklin, Jackson, and Madison counties now with a severe thunderstorm warning. So we had briefly a tornado debris signature. The radar serving northeast parts of Alabama is right there at High Top. So these storms getting very close to that. They'll be having potential problems with lightning if should that hit the radar. Mike and Alex.
All right, Dr. Forbes, thanks so much. The severe threat not limited to today. We had hail yesterday in Caldwell, Texas. So weekend storms also bringing some severe weather. This shot again on Sunday. There were reports of cars and property damage by the hailstorm here in Caldwell. Hail has been bigger than what we saw there in Caldwell. Tonight we've seen reports and heard reports of many cars with their windshields busted out there in the Coleman, Alabama area, thanks to what Scott Peak said was baseball-sized hail. The threat zone for the hail focused right over the northern part of the state of Alabama, northwest Georgia, and into south and central sections of Tennessee. How do we get that hail? Well, of course, we've got that inflow of warm, moist air, and we've got updrafts within the storm. So that's air rising within the storm. At times, this can exceed 100 miles per hour. Also, why airplanes are going to fly around the storms. The updraft is going to carry liquid, those raindrops, into the mid-levels of the clouds where temperatures are below freezing. So now you've got these raindrops beginning to freeze. As they melt a bit, they begin to fall through the cloud, they'll melt, and then they may aggregate upon each other or get another layer of liquid on them, and then up in the updraft again, freeze again. So they're going to continue to grow in size the longer they're able to stay up in that storm. And the stronger the updraft is in the storm, the longer it's able to hold it. So the stronger the updraft is, the bigger the hailstone's going to be. And once that updraft isn't able to keep that hailstone aloft, the hailstone falls. What was the largest hailstone we ever saw in the U.S.? 8 inches in diameter. And so you're thinking, all right, what is that? Maybe softball, orange. That's soccer ball-sized hail. And Mike, the supporting updraft on that one may have exceeded 150 miles per hour.
Just wild. And in the most recent reports, we're getting softball-sized hail. And seeing some pictures on Twitter tonight, spikes on it. Like, this stuff is dangerous.
These aren't necessarily shaped like softballs. No. Keep that in mind.
This is like some sort of medieval torture device or something like this. This stuff is going to be dangerous, right? So what is the power of hail? Well, say something like a 2-inch diameter piece of hail. That's like dropping a 2-liter bottle to the ground. 3-inch diameter hail is like a Jordan Spieth drive, okay? And 4-inch diameter hail, we're talking, some serious hail now. It's like being hit by a 170 mile per hour baseball. Major leaguers are throwing, big time major leaguers throwing 95 to 100 miles an hour. Now we're gonna throw in 170 here. So how big is hail necessarily? Well, we've got a corresponding scale for you that can keep you updated. You take a look at quarter size hail, and that's all you need to get a severe thunderstorm warning, 1 inch in diameter. Golf ball 1.75, baseball 2.75, and here are the reports today: 4-inch diameter hail the size of softballs. 100 mile per hour updraft to suspend that. So we got some seriously dynamic thunderstorms happening this evening. When we come back, we talk about the snowstorm. Toby coming to the Northeast.
tornado warning in southern Tennessee. It's indicated by Doppler radar, and we continue to have a tornado warning in northern Alabama. All of these storms either side of this red warm front and moving east, some of them going at about 45 miles per hour. We'll start here with the newest of the tornado warned storms that is in areas well to the north and west of Chattanooga, but severe storms warning getting close to the Chattanooga area. The tornado warned storm, Franklin County, and you can almost see here the little hook echo or the broad hook echo showing up in there. So close to the Oak Grove Elementary School area, around the Alto area, and then heading up toward Bells Mills and the Flat Branch area. The circulation with the tornado vortex signature is a tight one, right close to the Highway 64 area, north and east of Winchester, and that will be moving off toward south of Pelham over toward the Tracy City area. Then down into Alabama for other, what has been a long-lived tornado warning, with tornadoes earlier around the Russellville and the Falkville area. Now it's over into Etowah County, and actually an extension a little bit north of that, also over into parts of DeKalb and Marshall counties, with a big sprawling circulation here, and the tornado would be sitting right inside that notch. Brand new scan has just come in, so update some of the timing there, close to that Duck Springs, the Keener area, and that would be heading over towards, say, center Alabama at about 8:15. The circulation, not especially tornadic with this one, but there's the inflow, and then there's some of the outflow coming around. So along there could be a tornado. There could also be damaging winds with this storm. Alex?
All right, Dr. Forbes, thanks so much. Let's walk you through some of the things we're watching on the radar, including a new flash flood warning now for the Coleman area. We've seen quite a bit of rain as multiple rounds of storms have moved through. So Coleman, that includes the city of Coleman, Simcoe, and Vinemont under a flash flood warning until the early morning hours of your Tuesday. This means that there could be water on some of those roadways, some of those low-lying areas maybe filled with water. About 2 inches of rain coming down just in the past few hours as these storms move through. Notice it says 6-hour rainfall, but keep in mind a lot of this has been much more recent than that. So a lot of rain in a short period of time is going to spell flooding problems. That's also the location where we had the huge hail. Now, we are watching parts of the state of Georgia, likely going to see a new tornado watch issued by the Storm Prediction Center, and it would include areas from about Macon up towards, say, Rome or Dalton, Georgia. So we're talking the northwest corner of Georgia, the Atlanta metro area, all the way down into central parts of the state of Georgia. As these storms continue to roll eastward, we think they will stay on the stronger side as they do so. Not just the threat for isolated tornadoes, but also that possibility that we see that large hail extend into the area. Chattanooga, where Reynolds Wolf is located, they're beginning to watch those storms roll closer to town. Things beginning to quiet towards the Huntsville area, but those training storms around Coleman will really be causing some trouble. Mike?
All right, we can't take our eyes off the winter weather either, because could it be yet another nor'easter headed in? And a city like New York and a city like D.C. could be targets. In fact, for D.C., this could end up being your biggest snow of the season so far. That's why we've brought in our winter weather expert, Tom Nizzle. Take a look at this, Tom. We're now getting a little bit more confidence in the track of this storm, where it's headed, and maybe some places that have been missed by previous nor'easters now get hit.
D.C. into Philly, I mean, these places haven't seen that much snow all year round, and D.C. in particular could, they could really up their snow totals. This is going to be a high-impact storm for a few reasons here. We're into March already, Winter Storm Toby right there, but you get into March here, these snows are oftentimes very wet, heavy snows, and we get a lot of damage to tree branches, power outages from these types of storms. One of the main figures in producing this storm is that high-pressure system sitting in eastern Canada. That's going to provide the cold air associated with this storm here to really turn that moisture into snowfall. And that low is going to take a track right up the east coast again. Let's just take another look here also at the benchmark, that yellow cross right there, 40 degrees north, 70 degrees west. That right there is a great benchmark to give an idea as to what kind of precipitation offers along the coast. This system goes just outside of that benchmark, and as it does so, brings the precipitation all the way from Philly to New York to Boston, right up along the megalopolitan corridor there. We're looking at 50 million people right now under winter storm watches. We play it out here in time. It the real big dance here occurs during Wednesday. Wednesday morning rush hour into Wednesday afternoon. The snow is going to come down heavy as the system comes off the coast and drives northeastward toward Cape Cod. And as it does so, brings a lot of moisture back into this cold air. So from D.C. to Philly to New York to Boston, take a look at that. I mean, that is going to be some pretty heavy snow during that time frame. So Wednesday is going to be rough. Now, it's March. Temperatures running in the 30s here. Road temperatures are going to be relatively warm, but I think the snowfall rates will actually overachieve here, and there's going to be a lot of wet, slushy snow on the roads. It's going to be a rough time here.
This should be easy to clear, though. Yes?
It's good
for plows.
For plows, it's going to melt pretty quickly, but it's a heavy, wet snow. So for trying to shovel this snow, it could be very dangerous. This could be a heart attack snow. These are the types of snows that I get really concerned about if you get a lot of snow in these areas. Wait a couple of days with a March sun angle.
Yeah.
A lot of this will melt just naturally on your roads and on your driveways. Take a look at the snowfall totals here. We've got a swath there going across D.C. of double-digit snows. New York City is into snow. Boston as well. And yes, D.C. is. Big snowfall gradient again along the 95 corridor. About the only area that I'm really concerned about east of 95 is going to be parts of Jersey there to see the heavy snow. And there we go. There's a Baltimore snowfall into Washington. It's going to be a big springtime event, guys. Stay tuned.
All right, thanks, Tom.
Got a lot more to come. We're going to continue to track the severe threat with Dr. Greg Forbes. That as Weather Underground continues next.